Off the shores of the Caribbean coast of the Nicaragua lies a paradise, showered by the deep blue and turquoise crystal waters and surrounded by white sands. The Kern Islands, that was once roamed by the Kukra Indians from the Mosquito mainland, visited by English, French, and Dutch pirates over 700 years ago, and that was spotted by Christopher Columbus on his fourth trip to the Americas, has had many names over the last centuries, the most known ones being Limonades and Manglares, that was given by the Spanish explorers around the 15th century, and of course the current name, the Kern Island. There are many theories about the origin of this island. The most documented one explained that it's from a French translation to English, referring to a land cultivated with corn by its original inhabitants, the Kukra Indians. These Caribbean jewels were craved by Spanish sailors, adventurers, pirates, and British settlers. Since the early 1600s, the islands were occupied by the British settlers, who had brought slaves from different regions of Africa, men and women who were stripped from their motherland to work in the plantation and kitchen of their master. The slave worked over numerous hours, building rock walls, working in the cotton and sugarcane fields, which were exported later to Liverpool, England, and other European countries. These enslaved men and women were chained and suffered from inhuman treatment and hard labor. Each slave was considered a single piece of property, and the master was free to dispose of them at his will. All of that changed one day on August 27, 1841. It was very early in the morning. The day started as usual for the slave, when suddenly the sound of a conch shell was heard, and the arrival of a ship was spotted off the shores of Southwest Bay. Back then, the conch shell has always been a way for the people to know whenever a ship was approaching the land. Next to the shores, there were 3 men who were arriving on a small boat or dory. One of them was dressed in a high-class outfit, apparently an authority of some kind, while the other 2 that were accompanying him had on a Marine Navy suit. These men were not any pirates or merchants, and this was obvious because the ship had the British flag on it. It seems that they came traveling from afar, seeking the Kern Islands on a special mission. One of these men that arrived was Colonel Alexander MacDonald, who at the time was a superintendent of the British Honduras. British Honduras was the last continental possession of the United Kingdom in the Americas. In present day, it's known as Belize. Colonel Alexander MacDonald arrived at Great Kern Island and summoned the slave owners to come down to the bayside, for he had a message from Queen Victoria. After receiving this message, the slaves' owners were asked to gather all their slaves on the same beach as well. According to historical texts, the slaves' owners were the family Hudson, Quinn, Campbell, Downs, Hooker, Forbes, Bowden, Hanson, and Cottrell. Between these families, they owned over 98 slaves. Colonel Alexander MacDonald asked for everyone's attention. With a scroll in his hand, he read as follows: "In the name of Queen Victoria of Great Britain and Ireland, and Robert Charles Frederick, King of the Mosquito Kingdom, I hereby declare freedom to all men and women on this land. The British Crown will pay £25 to each owner for every person that was granted freedom," he proclaimed. This announcement marked a very important moment in the history of the Kern Islands. Those who were enslaved for many years and others from birth were finally seeing a new way. Freedom was now theirs. the free men and women decided to happily celebrate their freedom. That same day, they went to the swamps to catch land crabs. That they prepared for supper a crab soup that was served in calabash, and danced while playing songs from handmade mute instruments. They sang and danced all night with joy and happiness, for there were no free men and women. I bring them together, black anguish and white anguish, both of the same stature, and they shout, and they dream, and they weep, and sing, and sing, and sing, and sing. Since that day, the crab soup had become a symbol of freedom for the people of the Kern Island. And later on, most of the free men and women decided to travel to the Caribbean islands, while others remained on the islands where they built their home and formed their families. 11 years after this historical event, a religious figure by the name of Reverend Edward Kelly, a Baptist missionary, arrived at Kern Island. He himself was the son of a freed slave from British Honduras, and he endeavored on the island to spread the gospel and to establish the first religious and educational institution on the island. It was Reverend Kelly that motivated the people of Kern Island to always celebrate the emancipation from slavery. So every year since 1859, the people would gather in North End neighborhood under a big tree in Miss Teresa Lamson courtyard to celebrate with the church this historical event, playing traditional games that were inherited from the British, like cricket, reciting poems, singing songs, enjoying delicious pastry and food, and of course, drinking crab soup. Although over the last century, this celebration has been evolving and adapting itself to the modern custom of the world, one thing is sure: the Kern Islands will always celebrate the day their ancestors were set free from slavery. For there is no greater gift than freedom and the right to roam and live in peace.